All right, good evening, everybody. Welcome back to Walks in Wall Street. Today is June 4th, 2023. It's about 8:48 p.m. Eastern Time here in New York City. We're starting off tonight's live stream on West 17th Street and 6th Avenue. We are looking uptown, but tonight I think we're going to do something a little bit different, and we are going to head to the High Line. So we are going to walk a couple blocks up, then make a left on 23rd Street, which I believe the High Line is now on the summer hours, so it should be open until 10 o'clock. That'll provide us some really good views all the way up to the Hudson Yards, where I think that's where we will head and conclude the live stream. We'll take a quick peek at futures. So futures just opened. If you look at the S&P 500 E-mini futures, which is the ticker symbol ES, that is the futures contract, we're pretty much about flat, only down about 2 points on the S&P. If you look at the NASDAQ 100, ticker symbol NQ, we're also about flat, down 42 points. And then lastly, the Dow 30, ticker symbol YM, we're also flat. We're up about 30 points. This week on Wall Street is going to be a pretty quiet week. Not too much activity in earnings. We're essentially through the majority of earnings season, which is good, but we are going to be getting some major economic data out, particularly from the Institute for Supply Management and the Federal Reserve. And then obviously we're going to get jobless claims on Friday, so that's important. Now, if you remember, on the first business day of every single month, the Institute for Supply Management releases the PMI numbers, or the manufacturing PMI numbers, which we've gone over that, and it shows that the U.S. manufacturing sector is in decline now for the 7th month in a row. We're getting readings below 50. However, what's really been holding the economy up, and I think what's been propping the market up, is the service sector of the economy is actually doing really well. You know, the economy's been helped by consumer spending, particularly. That's been coming in really strong. We're going to get some household debt levels from the Fed later this week in terms of consumer debt, in terms of revolving debt, like credit cards and the like. And then we're also going to get the average U.S. household net worth coming out, I believe, on Thursday, so we'll talk about that. Let's quickly check crude oil futures, which is ticker symbol CL. That is the ticker symbol for light crude oil futures. And we're actually up almost 2%, trading at $73. Now, I saw something. Let me see if I can pull it up. I think Saudi Arabia came out and says it's slashing its oil supply, and that could potentially mean higher oil prices. So maybe that's why we're getting this little bit of a bid in crude oil today. But you gotta realize where we're coming from now. We are still trading well below the 50-day and the 200-day moving average. If you look all the way back to March 4th of 2022, we were trading at $130 a barrel. Okay, we fast forward a year, we've since come down all the way to about $73. Now, last week we were actually trading well below 70. I think we put in the temporary bottom at 64. So from peak to trough, that's a 50% haircut, right? That's a 50% correction. So we'll talk about what that means, because to me that signals a recession, right? If you have crude getting hammered and oil prices, or I should say crude prices, are trading well off the highs, what does that show about the economy, or what does that say about the economy? Now, maybe that's forecasting a recession in emerging markets or in places like China, right, where ever since the CCP lifted the zero COVID mandate from its citizens, everybody, including myself, by the way, thought there was going to be this robust, very strong boom in the economy. a boom for consumer spending, consumers traveling abroad and around the country. We haven't really seen that. If you think the ISM PMIs for the manufacturing sector in the United States is poor, look what we got last week in China. Speaking of China, let's check out the Hang Seng Index, that is ticker symbol HSI. Still in a pretty bad downtrend, trading at 19,099. And let's actually check on Mexico. EWW is the iShares Mexico ETF. We've been making a little bit of a bull case or a bull thesis for Mexican equities, as well as we've been seeing this reshoring of the supply chain away from Asia, particularly China, back to North America. I think you're going to have the United States benefit from this, from the reshoring of the supply chain. I think you're going to have Canada benefit as well, and Mexico. And Mexican equities are trading near record highs, or at least 52-week highs. The Mexican ETF is in a clear uptrend. Now, if you look at EWW, I want you to look back to April of 2013, Monday, April 15th to be exact, and we put it in an all-time record high of about $77.47. And since then, since 2013, we've been in a significant downtrend in terms of Mexican equities. And now it took over a decade, well, not over a decade, almost 10 years to get back to new all-time record highs. So maybe, just maybe, this is the appropriate catalyst for Mexican equities to break out to their all-time record highs. Who knows? All right, let me go ahead and close the laptop here. And we will go ahead and get the stream started, and I'll say hello to everybody in the chat. Just give me 2 seconds. All right, let me put the microphone on, and we are ready to rock. Let me see if I could turn on the do not disturb mode while I'm doing this. Okay, guys, we're good. All right, Sunday night, welcome to the Markets a Look Ahead live stream. Let's say hello to everybody in the chat. Hopefully you all had a great weekend. I see NJB. I see Otto, the LT Prod, Rosie, Richard Scott says good evening. What's up, Richard? British Gray from Tampa, Florida. Troy Atman is here. Susan Wolin. Good to see everybody. Hope you all had a relaxing weekend. We're going to head to the High Line tonight. I see Sparks Carnival. What's up? Says telcos like T-Mobile, Verizon, AT&T were way down on Friday. News Amazon is going to enter and compete and give Prime members free cell service. Dude, I saw that. Now that is a total disruptor. And yeah, I mean, and T-Mobile has really been the leader in the telecom space, because the market has really been treating that as like a growth stock, right? If you look at AT&T, that's really been one of those dividend aristocrats. Disagree with me on that, but it's just been a real stalwart. It's been a real laggard. But yeah, I did see that. I want your take on that, everybody, because I think the wireless industry is going to become increasingly more competitive. But that's actually very good for the consumer, because just think about wireless service, okay, in the United States over the last 15 years, right? I should say going back to the first original iPhone, right? Because with the introduction of 3G technologies, that's actually when we were able to get internet access on our mobile devices, right? I should say usable internet access on our mobile devices. And if you've noticed, technology in and of itself is extremely deflationary, right? I think everybody would agree with that. And the price per month of wireless service has just been essentially on its way to zero, right? I say on its way to zero, not in a literal sense, but you used to be able to get plans for like $200 a month. Right now, for a single line, if you go to T-Mobile or and choose your carrier, you can get unlimited talk, text, and data for like $25 a month. And this isn't 3G speeds. These are really, really fast speeds, 4G LTE, and then some select areas 5G. So for the consumer, it's great, right? And I think you're going to continue to see the cost of wireless service get driven lower. But Sparks Carnival makes a good point, right? We've been having so many different players come into the space, many different MVNOs, right? I think last night we talked about Mint Mobile. So Mint Mobile was, I should say, an MVNO before it sold to T-Mobile. It was Ryan Reynolds' company. And essentially what they do is they white label all of the data from all the other carriers. But if Amazon, now I think Spectrum, so talking about New York, I think Spectrum Wireless is really trying to get into the consumer business as well. What are some of the others besides the big three, right? Besides AT&T, Verizon, and T-Mobile, you have Spectrum. I think Optimum is getting in there, Charter Communications. Hey, Ryan Beck says, I'm interested to see how the wholesale shakes out as it is diluting subs base. Yeah, so a lot of the I think you're talking about like the sub agents, right? Yeah, I mean, Cricket. Yeah, Cricket is another one. Cricket Wireless. Now, I'm trying to think of, after the merger, right? Well, it was really an acquisition. T-Mobile acquired Sprint. I know it's technically a merger, but Sprint just was not going to be able to survive without T-Mobile. But T-Mobile got a really good deal because it just so happens that the best spectrum to use for 5G technologies is that mid-band spectrum, right? So if anybody's familiar with Telecom, or maybe you work for a telecommunications company, you probably have your SEs, your solutions engineers, always giving you these trainings about, the different spectrum bands, right? And it just so happened that Sprint had a massive, massive amount of that very, very lucrative mid-band spectrum, which is perfect for 5G technologies, right? If you talk about, low latency, high throughput, usually runs there. But yeah, I don't know. What do you guys think? Would you switch? I'm assuming about probably half the audience tonight that's joining us in this live stream is an Amazon Prime member. Oh, real quick, if you look all the way downtown, you could see the World Trade Center. And then as we were walking up to 23rd Street, you had really good views of the Empire State Building. But I don't know, would you guys take that deal? Do you think the deal is compelling? Again, I think it's just rumors. But do you think it's compelling enough where you'd actually, drop your AT&T or Verizon or T-Mobile family plan if Amazon is going to offer you free wireless service? I don't know. I think you would find connection rather spotty. Who knows? Hey, Daniel's here. What's up? Sparks Carnival says I would switch. Very interesting. I don't know if I would. Because a lot of those MVNOs are not good for the type of things that I do, like live streaming. You really need a solid carrier to do that, right? Because essentially with those MVNOs as well, and I have a background in telecom. We actually used to work with a lot of these MVNOs. They get deprioritized on the network. So if you signed up for Mint Mobile, if you signed up for any of these other smaller telcos, yes, their pitch is that you run the same networks as AT&T and Verizon and T-Mobile. That's true. But let's say if you were in a neighborhood that's very congested, right? So let's say if I have Mint Mobile and I'm walking through Times Square, I'm going to get deprioritized on the network. Well, pretty much automatically, to the point where it could potentially be, you can't even use it, right? So there is still some value with going with the pure play carriers. But again, I think that's why these larger carriers are just starting to acquire those smaller ones because you're essentially just buying business, right? You're paying for the customers instead of competing and driving the cost lower and lower and lower. You know, T-Mobile and the like could just purchase them. All right, 23rd Street, we're gonna make a left here. I think I'll go up one more just so I can give you guys a good shot of the World Trade Center. Hey, Wendy England says we hardly have any carriers in Canada. All right, Golden City, you're out of here. Well, in Canada, you guys have Rogers Communications. I think that's the largest telecommunications company in Canada. And I was actually doing some work with them when I was in the business. Our friends over there in Canada. Yeah, Keith, it's difficult to believe that Amazon would make such a service free. You know, I think it just goes along the lines with what a lot of the other cellular carriers are doing to win business, right? So for example, I think if you sign up with Verizon, you get Apple Music included. I think some carriers like T-Mobile, you may get Netflix included. So I think they're just trying to bundle as many things as possible to attract clients and customers. Lewis says, honestly, it would be smart to have only one carrier. I don't know, I think the more competitors in the space is better for the consumer in my view. But hey, R2D2, what's up? Says, how great is the weather? The weather's all right. It's not bad, it's still cold out. You can see all the way downtown to the World Trade Center. It's a beautiful view here. Let me catch up on some of the comments. Sandra is here, says greetings from Massachusetts. Life, Liberty, and Guns is here, says good evening, Tom. What's up? Hope you guys are well. Yeah, Noodles says, will Starlink be a major disruptor for cell service? You know, speaking about that, did you guys see that article that came out in the Wall Street Journal the other day that what was it? I don't want to report fake news. I think the government is going to start to pay Elon Musk or Starlink, right? For the service that's being sent into Ukraine. Is that correct? Did you guys see that? So originally, I think Elon had put those satellites up and connected Ukraine for free. I think it was on his dime. But now I think the US government is going to start paying for it. Did anybody see that? I didn't have time to dig too much into the article. Hey, AK is here. What's up? Says there's Rogers, Bell Mobility, Freedom Mobile, and TELUS for Canada. Action Kid, when you go there, because I know you travel to Toronto, which carrier do you use? So if you go there, pop in a SIM card, which one do you find is the best? You know, down in Miami, when I first moved down there, Verizon, I don't know, my Verizon really wasn't that good. But here's what I did to improve it. And I think it was more on the reappropriating the radio bands on my phone to match what's down there. So if you're traveling somewhere, right? Let's say you're based in New York and you're traveling for business to Houston, Texas. You're traveling for business to Miami or wherever that's really far away. And if you notice your cell service is not good, it may not necessarily mean that Verizon doesn't work there. The carriers could be using different radio bands down there. So all you do is go into your settings and you reset network settings. And that'll automatically reroute your phone to work off of the bands that they are using at the time from those towers. So every time I go to Miami, that's what I do, and I don't really have any issue. But I don't know, supposedly down in southern Florida, AT&T is what the majority of people use. But Brad's Brain says, I've literally used work phone for personal phone for years, so I use Verizon. Yeah, if you have like a company corporate sponsored phone, Verizon is huge in the enterprise space. And that's one thing that T-Mobile is really trying to do and work on, is break into enterprise. So Fortune 500, big organizations. And they've had some trouble doing that, but I think it'll get a little bit better. Verizon has really had a stronghold on big corporations. T-Mobile is very good with consumers, right? Retail business. I think nobody does retail and consumer business like T-Mobile. And that really all started with John Legere. Is anybody here a big John Legere fan? I think he's so unique, and I think he was such a revolutionary CEO particularly. And he really turned the whole company around. I mean, if you look at the share price of the stock of T-Mobile when John Legere took over to when he left his CEO position, I think the CEO of T-Mobile now is what, Mike Sievert, I think? Anyway, he totally turned that company around. So employees of T-Mobile, you know, either, let's say if you're on the corporate side or on the retail side, there's a lot of stories where people got really rich, really wealthy. If you were an account executive or enterprise account executive and you were getting stock-based compensation when T-Mobile in 2013 was trading at like $10, man, that, I mean, talk about creating value for shareholders. Yeah, I'm a big John Legere fan. I think he's a little bit wonky, right? But you know, his personality is very aggressive, and you could tell he's very passionate about his business and his shareholders and the employees. So, Brown Eyes says, yes, Mike Sievert took over. This is Hotel Chelsea, by the way, everybody. Action Kid says AT&T is the best plan for Canada and Latin America. I get unlimited international roaming. That's good. Yeah, I use Verizon. I don't know, I never really travel abroad, so I think it's good for me now. But I don't know, for one line, I think I'm paying like $125 a month. But again, within the plan, it gives me all this other stuff that I never even use. But anyway. All right, guys, tonight we are going to be walking to the High Line, which is really beautiful. And every time, it seems like every time we try to do that on the live stream, it's closed. But it's summer now, right? So whenever we used to try to visit there in the winter, I think in winter hours, the High Line would close at about 8 o'clock, something like that. I'm assuming, I guess now that it's summer, it's going to close at 10 o'clock. So I'm excited to show you guys that. Hey, BCJ is here. What's up? Good to see you. UniJ23, welcome. I see Steph UH. Thanks for joining us. Now, it's going to be a rather slow week on Wall Street, to be honest, but we are going to get some very key economic, I should say some big economic data is going to be coming out, both from the Institute for Supply Management and from the Federal Reserve. So that's going to start on Monday. The Institute for Supply Management is going to release its Services Purchasing Managers Index for May. Now, services is really the only thing that's been saving this economy, right? Because if you look at the ISM PMI numbers for the manufacturing sector, that's released on the first business day of every single month, we've been in very severe structural decline on the ISM PMIs for the manufacturing side. So the manufacturing sector of the US economy, this is a really kind of wonky, cool bar here. I never really even noticed it's here. It kind of gives me like Austin, Texas vibes, doesn't it? Interesting. Anyway, yeah, so we have the manufacturing sector in contraction, severe contraction, might I add, in the United States. But services, the services PMI, is actually holding resilient and is actually doing quite well. So consensus among many economists that were polled as we come up here on 8th Avenue, so we're headed west. The consensus on Wall Street is for a 52.1 reading for May. That's about in line with April's data. Now, if you want to know how to read this report, you can go to the Institute for Supply Management's website. But in general terms, any reading over 50 signals expansion in the service sector of the US economy, and a reading under 50, generally speaking, signals contraction in the service sector. But as we've been reviewing on the live stream, a better way to interpret this data is the trajectory of the PMIs, right? It's not good enough just to look at the PMIs and say, okay, we have a 50 reading, so we're in the clear. Because the last month could have been a 55 reading, and the month before that could have been, a 58 reading. So you really need to update your models every single month when the ISM PMIs release their servicing and manufacturing data, because you can literally see the business cycle as a visual. Now, if you look all the way uptown, once again, we're standing on 8th Avenue. This big building right here is the New York Times building, but there's also a very notable and very successful enterprise software company that resides in the building. It is called Datadog. The ticker symbol is DDOG. And right next to that, you can see all the way to Billionaires Row, that's Central Park Tower. So that is the Xtel development of Central Park Tower. Hey, the Mighty Bull, what's up? Good to see you. Hopefully you had a good weekend so far. We're officially here at 23rd Street. Gonna head to the High Line tonight.
I was like, oh my God, Steve's gonna kick me out.
Hey, Abdul is here. What's up? Now, we were talking about Telecom. I guess kind of similar to Telecom, right? Speaking of Apple, we are live streaming on an iPhone 13 mini. I believe Apple tomorrow is going to make an announcement, allegedly. I think Apple is going to get into the business of the VR/AR headsets. Now, I think we sort of talked about this a little bit, but I don't know. What is your guys' temperature on that? The price point, well, the reports, there was an article that came out in IBD this weekend, Investors Business Daily, and the reports are showing that Apple is going to target a price point of $3,000 for the headset, which is kind of crazy. Now, I know over the long term it's actually a software play as much as it is a hardware play, but I think the reason why it's getting so much attention is because this is going to be the first new product launch from Apple, I think since 2015, right? When did the Apple Watch come out? Anybody know when the Apple Watch came out? I want to say 2015. I think that was the last big hardware development from Apple. Hey, TC says, don't think it will work even with Apple. Yeah, I mean, TC, I think I have to agree with you. I mean, I don't know. Even looking at a lot of the stuff that Mark Zuckerberg is doing over at Meta with their Quest headset, I believe, I just can't see this working with people walking around wearing these big clunky things on their heads. I just don't see it. I mean, I could be wrong, right? I'm not going to count it out and discount it, but I just don't see it. Hey, Noodles says, Tom, my son and my nephew both have VR goggles and neither of them use them. Wow. Jackal says the $3,000 price point is crazy, but it's Apple and they will pull it off. You think they'll pull it off? Mothman says, screw that, no Apple VR headset for me. Yeah, I mean, I think the price point is a little steep. Well, or a lot steep. $3,000? But I do see the play here. Because the play is this, right? And I always make this comparison. I gotta actually pick up the pace here because I want to get you guys on the High Line. Look at these dogs, love that. I want to get you guys on the High Line before it closes. But many analysts on Wall Street made the biggest mistake ever when it relates to Apple. Does anybody remember that? Well, if you don't remember, I'll tell you what the mistake was. Many analysts, right, equity research analysts at the mega banks, would put assign a valuation to Apple as that of a hardware manufacturer. However, there was a few analysts on the street that were starting to buck that trend and saying, no, you guys are missing the big picture. Apple is going to be a software play, right? Apple is going to be a cloud computing play. Apple is going to be a big data play. And not a lot of people wanted to assign Apple the appropriate multiple of a software company. And there was one analyst in particular that started to do that first. He goes by the name of Thomas Lee of Fundstrat. You've probably seen him on CNBC. He's a big contributor there. But he was one of the first analysts to do that. And, with all of the hardware, right? I always make this example. I was just looking at my credit card statement from the last month, since it's the first week of the month, if you will. So I was looking at my credit card statement, my Amex statement from May, and I see all of these charges, like $10, $5, $20, $15 from Apple, and I don't even know what half of this stuff is. So I tried to, do a little bit of investigation, and all of it is like subscription service, right, for purchasing iCloud, purchasing more storage of, I think I have like 2 terabytes I pay for. And if I'm doing that, and I don't even realize that I'm doing that, think about how many people across the planet and across the world are doing that. It's almost everybody, because as technology has improved, think about what we're doing right now, right? We're streaming live in 1080p. That was not possible just 10 years ago on a 3G network, right? You would literally be saying, Tom, which pixel is the Empire State Building? And now, on your iPhone, you're able to take video in 4K, 60 frames a second. Even if you buy, a 256 gigabyte iPhone, and you go to Central Park one weekend and you start taking 4K videos of the turtles in Central Park, your phone is shot, right? Like 2 hours worth of video, 4K, 60 frames a second, you're gonna need to buy external storage. So Apple has built this empire in the services business, and they actually report this in line item on their earnings report. And one of the fastest growing segments of the business of Apple is their services business. So as it relates to this VR headset thing that's allegedly going to come out, what is it, tomorrow? Is it tomorrow they're going to announce that, or later in the week? I don't know. I think it's the Apple's Developer Day is tomorrow. The play there, I see the play, right? Because many people are going to make the mistake and say, oh, this is just a hardware play. There's no margins in the hardware business, which is generally true, right? Hardware margins are very, very slim. Trust me, very, very slim. I used to deal with a lot of the manufacturers and different OEMs in this space. Margins are very slim, but the software margins is where it's at. That's like 90% plus margins. So I think Apple really wants to make like a developer community, rally developers to start making applications for the VR, the virtual reality, the metaverse, all the nonsense. And that's where the money is. And that's going to take probably 10 years. So I see it, but I don't know. I don't think I would ever use the VR headset. Hey, Taxicabs is Apple's Worldwide Developer Conference. Kicks off on June 5th. Okay, so that's Tuesday, right? No, June 5th is tomorrow, yeah, okay. I don't know, what are you guys' thoughts on that? Hey, Justin S. is Tom. I read an article on how there hasn't been a creation that has helped progress 5G service yet, like how social networks helped with 4G. It's an interesting point. Now, I will say this. If you think about autonomous driving, I don't think that's going to be possible without 5G networks, right? Because if you're trying to oh, look at these guys. They're on the one-wheel things. Because autonomous driving is going to need very, very low latency, high throughput networks, right? If you're going to have a car that drives itself, one of the main problems that you have is with all the sensors and all the chips that are built into the car, how fast is the reaction time, right? That's latency. So latency is like, let's say if I slam on the gas or I detect a threat in front of me, like a kid pulls out in front of the car and I say, oh my God, there's a kid, I gotta slam on the brake. The time it takes me to process the data, the high line's open, by the way, thank God. So we'll go up on the high line. So the time it takes me to process the threat, to say, oh my God, a kid is running out in the middle of the street, I gotta slam on the brakes, to the point I actually slam on the brakes, that's latency, right? So it's the same thing for a piece of technology, and if you're running that, on a 4G network or a 3G network, it's not gonna cut it. You'll have accidents all over the place. It's the same thing if you've ever played like an online video game and it starts to like lagging a lot. That's latency. Okay, here we are. So beautiful up here. So we'll take a look at some of the apartments. We'll go downtown a little bit and then we'll walk uptown. Now, I want you guys to notice all of the brand new developments and very, very interesting. So I think this is a good point of reference. So these are all the original buildings on Manhattan's west side. Beautiful architecture. You have the original fire escapes. Some of my favorite buildings in the entire city are right here, but with the addition to the High Line leading all the way up to the Hudson Yards, we've started to get a lot of these ultra luxurious, very funky new developments, like this one. Check this one out. This one is really nice. But as we continue to walk down a little bit more on the High Line, you'll start to see a lot more of them. I think this one here is really, really unique. Everything is lit up in all glass, really nice. Hey, TK Porsche is very nice fire escapes. All right, let me get to Golden's Dawn's comment, because he's put that in the chat about 1,000 times. Hey, Golden City says, hey Tom, I was away. Have you talked about the OPEC Plus decision today? Expect higher oil prices. Yeah, so I think, it's good that you mentioned that. It's good that you mentioned that because something came across my screen. I got a Bloomberg notification and it said that the Saudis are going to put in place an oil production cut. Now, we reviewed at the very, very, very beginning of the live stream where crude oil was. So if you look at crude futures today, or I should say tonight on the open, crude is actually up 2%. So I think light crude futures are trading at $73 a barrel, something like that. I don't know. I think there's a lot of people. I was reading some macro research over the weekend, and you kind of got to be careful with reading some of these macro guys because it's all gloom and doom. They're never bullish. And there's still these crazy price targets calling for $200 a barrel crude oil. I'm just not seeing it. I've been bullish. I've been bearish the XLE in crude for a while now, ever since we had that big blow off top in crude oil back in March. I think the exact day of the top was March 4th of 2022. We had that big blow off to $130 a barrel, and we've corrected all the way down to $64 a barrel, right? That's a 50% haircut. That's pretty significant. So I don't know. I don't think that we're going to get back to $100 a barrel anytime soon. I don't know. What are your thoughts on that? What does everybody think in the chat as we're looking at this very unique new development? Look at that. Looks like this apartment has a whole terrace. Do we think, I guess we'll take a quick poll in the chat. Does anybody here think that we are going to go back to $100 plus crude? Ryan Beck says, you bought at 65, sell at 85. That's a good trade. Wendy England says no. OPEC prefers oil close to $100 a barrel. I'm sure they do. I'm sure they do prefer oil close to $100 a barrel. By the books is no way. Yeah, I'm not seeing it either. I'm not seeing it either. If we saw a little bit better pickup in the Chinese economy, I'd say maybe, but we're not really seeing it. Here's another shot of this new development. Now, all the way in the distance, you'll be able to see the Hudson Yards. Very, very unique up here. Look at all the trees. It's like covering the whole thing. NBA Elias is $5.25 a gallon today. Where's that? Maybe in California. That's wild. Here's some more new developments. It'd be so beautiful to live in one of these buildings overlooking the High Line. It's so peaceful. You know, a lot of these trees do a good job of blocking out the noise. I'm not gonna lie. Now, this is one of my favorite new developments. It's almost like you're living in a little pod. Look at it over there. This one is cool too. This almost looks like the top of the Tiffany building, doesn't it? Anybody remember from our walks on 57th Street and 5th? This sort of looks like the top of the Tiffany building, that little box there. But look at the ones down there. I think all of the dining rooms are in those little pods. Look at them. That is so unique. Looks like that's even a movie theater room on the second floor. Yeah, this neighborhood, guys, is so different. I mean, just in the last 10 years, my God. You know, all of these really amazing brand new developments, all these sort of wonky architectural designs. These buildings have crazy amenities. You have, you know, saltwater pools, you have cold plunges, you have cinema rooms, you have podcasting rooms. I mean, the amenities are just, it's almost like a competition to see who could do the most outlandish amenities. And as you turn around from your apartment, you have gorgeous views all the way up to the Hudson Yards. You could actually see the Edge building right there. But I think more important than that, look at this, guys. As we turn the camera to the right, boom. That's a 10 out of 10 view of the Empire State Building and One Vanderbilt. You get two of them in one shot. It's kind of crazy to think about just how this neighborhood has changed over the years. Here's another one, all glass. You know, this is really in right now, if you haven't noticed, the floor-to-ceiling windows. It's like if a new development does not have floor-to-ceiling windows, it's probably not going to sell very well. What do you guys think of the architecture on these? Would you live here? I mean, that is stunning. You can kind of see inside, right? It's a massive open floor plan, huge open concept. You have the kitchen that flows into the dining room, that flows into the living room. You can see these a little bit better. And you're overlooking the High Line. I mean, I can only imagine what this looks like during the day. Seeing everybody enjoying themselves, walking around, it's beautiful. And here is a view of the street level. Now you see that building right here with the fire escapes? This is what the entire neighborhood used to look like. And now it's transitioning to what you see here. Very unique. Yeah, Dallas is like very clean too. All right, we'll head this way. Notice how quiet it is up here. It's almost like you could barely hear the street noise. There's the Empire State Building once more. SME Media, that's a good question. SME Media says, do they make blinds for those kind of windows? I think they may frost out.
But I think that is complicated.
I think this is the one that Ryan Beck likes. Big floor-to-ceiling windows. I like it too. More traditional. I think the developers sort of go out on a limb when they do these crazy designs, because I'm not sure if that's going to be timeless. Does that make sense? What do you guys think about that? Like the units that we just walked past with the sort of the pods almost, that's the only way I can explain it. They're gorgeous, but I don't know if it'll always stay in trend. Does that make sense? I think that's the risk. Will that always stay in trend? Will that always hold its value? Or is that just like a trendy thing that catches your eye in 2023 and then they sort of go out of style? All right, now we're going to head to the Hudson Yards. I'm trying to give you guys an example of how it blocks out the street noise. You can't even hear any of the cars at all. Love these water towers here. They have a lot of these in Brooklyn. Very peaceful neighborhood. Now, it wasn't so peaceful on Thanksgiving. Anybody remember our stream on Thanksgiving Day? That was a little wild. Seems things have calmed down. Thank God. I think the chat is about 50-50 split. Some of you are saying that architecture is a trend. Some people say it'll be timeless. I don't know. I mean, the reason why I bring it up is because you look at the original brownstones. You look at the original townhomes in New York. They always sell, and they've always sold. I don't know. I think it's more timeless. Look at these units, guys. Holy crap. These are beautiful. All floor-to-ceiling windows, and it seems like each unit is its own floor. That's been very trendy too. Full floor units that an elevator takes you right to your apartment. I've been in a lot of those. Those are cool. So you put your key fob on the elevator, you click which apartment is yours, and as the elevator doors open up, it's literally your living room. But if you guys are enjoying the live stream so far tonight, feel free to leave a like on the video and click the subscribe button if you're new. We do these streams about 5 days a week, 7 days a week, depending, starting at 8:30 p.m. Oh, I think they're closing it down.
Hi, sir. We're closing the park now. It's either exit
Okay.
23rd.
Thank you. I'll exit here. Thanks, man. Have a good day. Ah, they start closing at 9:30. Ah, well, at least we saw some of it. Now, last year they used to close during the summer at 10, but 9:30 is all right. What'd you guys think? Thumbs up, thumbs down on the High Line? Some people like it, some people don't. I think it's kind of cool. BCJ says, what do you think some of those units are worth? Probably in the millions. It really just depends, right? Depends on the square footage. Depends on how many bedrooms too. All right, we'll head. You know what? We'll walk up 10th Avenue. Because we never walk up 10th. Might as well.
Crackhead too? Fucking give a fuck about that camera.
Yeah, don't talk to me, pal. Or we're about to have a problem. These are nice outdoor dining setups here. All right, so we covered what's going to happen on Monday. We covered at length the Apple Development Day, where they are going to release the headset, which I think most of us are split 50-50 on whether that's going to be a flunk or not. We'll see. Also tomorrow, the ISM PMI services numbers are coming in. We'll probably be doing a deep dive on that tomorrow. And then that brings us to Tuesday, where the only thing that's going on really on Tuesday is we're going to hear from our friends over in Australia. So we've been seeing this major trend where not only the central bank in the United States, which is the Federal Reserve, has been going on a crazy interest rate hiking cycle. We've been seeing that with global central banks. So on Tuesday, June 6th, the Reserve Bank of Australia will announce its monetary policy decision. And as of now, futures traders are pricing in about a 33% chance the central bank will raise its cash rate target 1/4 percentage point. If they do that, the benchmark will be 4.1% in Australia. So again, it's very important to realize it's not only the U.S. central bank, it's not only the Federal Reserve, it's the ECB, it's the Bank of England, it's the Reserve Bank of Australia. Pretty much all global central banks right now are going through quantitative tightening cycles where instead of, for example, the Federal Reserve expanding its balance sheet and purchasing mortgage-backed securities in U.S. Treasuries and cutting interest rates, we're actually hiking interest rates at the fastest pace since Paul Volcker, and we're letting assets run off the balance sheet. I do want to highlight this real quick, guys. Now, this is probably one of the most prestigious private schools in the city, or even in the world. This is called Avenues, the World School. They just opened up a location in Miami, Florida, and the tuition here, I think, is like $50,000 a year, if you could believe that, for private school. So it's called the Avenues. Anybody familiar with this? It's on West 26th Street. Very expensive school. And there's been so much demand of wealthy people moving to Florida that they just opened an Avenue school in Miami. Yeah, Ryan Bex is for K through 12. Yeah, for K through 12, it's kind of crazy. But then again, I get it. I mean, if you want to send your kid to private school and you got the money for it, yeah, I'm not going to hate on it. But I don't know. I feel like, and I think this is good to have your input on this, guys. Part of me says, you know, yeah, if you're wealthy, if you're very successful to do family, you know, you may send your kids to boarding school or private school. And I get that. It's good for them to network with other successful people. But I think it can kind of make the kids out of touch with reality a little bit. I don't know. That's just sort of my opinion. I went to public school, right? I went to school with kids who were growing up in poverty, to wealthy kids, to people in the middle class. I think it's good for kids to have a good worldview on what it's really like to hang out with everybody. And I think if you go to these really, really elite private schools, especially from a very young age, I mean, maybe, I don't know, I don't have kids, but I think the kids could maybe just have an irregular sense of reality. And it can maybe make them a little bit out of touch. I think it's important for everybody to, you know, hang out with all types of socioeconomic status. I don't know. I think if I was ever that rich, I don't believe I would send my kids to the private school. I think I would still send them to the public school, just because I want them to be a little bit more well-rounded. I don't know, thoughts there? Agree, disagree? Abdullah says agree. Justin S says it helps kids who will end up being grown-ups to be more well-rounded. B says they could potentially live in a bubble, maybe. Ryan Beck says I went to public school all my life. Yeah, I don't know, I think, and I get it, right? It's sort of, wow, look at these. Okay, this is probably my favorite new development building. Look at that. My God. These are full floor apartment units with amazing terraces overlooking the High Line. That is unreal. What street is this? 28th. Thank you. West 28th Street. I'll cross the street to give you guys a shot of that building. Look at that. Wow. Could you imagine the views of the Empire State Building from that? And it looks like they're full floor apartments too. Oh, is that right? Everything in Miami says that's Zara Hadid's building. I did not know. Now, it kind of looks similar, everything in Miami, to the 1000 Museum a little bit, with that sort of oval style architecture. I know 1000 Museum is a Zaha Hadid building. Kind of looks like a spaceship, that thing. Hey, Hawaii's here. This is the Yankees beat the Dodgers 4-1. Love that. Love that very much. All right, so that brings us to, we'll bang through these real quick. So that's what's going to be going on, right? The Reserve Bank of Australia is going to raise interest rates. So you're having rates go up across the yield curve across the world. And I think that's going to continue in a big way. We'll walk around this guy. Now, if you think a week out, so June 13th through June 14th, that is when we are going to be hearing from our illustrious central bank, the Federal Reserve, as they have their next FOMC meeting. Now, consensus so far looks like we're going to take a little bit of a pause, okay? So we're probably not going to get a rate hike on the 13th through the 14th. They're probably going to skip one and then raise rates by 25 basis points here in the US in July. Now, a lot of the data that we've been getting out so far is a little bit of a mixed bag. So what do I mean by that? Well, if you've been watching the live stream, hold that thought 1 second. This is where we saw that crazy hot pursuit, hot car chase. Remember that? On Thanksgiving? The guy slammed into these barriers, hit like 5 cars, hit a police car, nearly ran over 2 police officers. This happened right here. All on Thanksgiving, might I add. Maybe his turkey was too dry, he was upset. But anyway, more importantly, the Federal Reserve uses all of the economic data, the leading indicators that we look at, right? So last week, we got the Institute for Supply Management PMI numbers for the manufacturing side, and manufacturing shows real weakness and contraction in the United States. So that would actually maybe an argument for a pause. However, let's look at the employment side of the house. We got non-farm payrolls out on Friday, which took the market's face off. We had 339,000 jobs created in the US economy last month. Now, economists on Wall Street were expecting 190,000 jobs, right? So we blew that number out of the water. Although, to be fair, the unemployment rate did tick up to 3.7%. But the labor market still seems to be white hot. In addition to that, last week we got the JOLTS report out, the JOLTS numbers, and it shows that in the United States today, there's about 10.1 million jobs that are available. This is up from 9 million jobs last month. So you're seeing the economy, particularly the service side, adding jobs like crazy. You're seeing job openings increase, but you're seeing manufacturing slow down. So with that data, what could we potentially infer about what's going to happen tomorrow as we get the services PMIs that are going to come out from the Institute of Supply Management? Well, we're probably going to get a good number. We're probably going to get a number that shows the services side of the US economy is expanding. So we sort of have a mixed bag of tricks here. On one hand, yes, the unemployment rate is ticking up, and might I add you, which I think is the most important, the labor force participation rate today in the United States has still not reached where it was pre-pandemic, pre-COVID, which was February of 2020. Correct me if I'm wrong here, guys. I think the labor force participation rate in February of 2020 was 63.4%, perhaps. We've still not reached that level. So you have some data showing that the economy is slowing in a big way, mainly in specific sectors of the economy like housing, like manufacturing is on a big slowdown, but services are white hot still. So we'll see. Hey, Design Ideas, what's up? Design Ideas, thank you so much for the very kind $10 donation. Appreciate you. Yo, my gosh, we have NYC Cherry Groove. Cherry Groove, good to see you, man. Hopefully you had a good Memorial Day weekend. Long time no see. Cherry Groove says nobody is hiring. Well, I mean, there's jobs out there. I mean, there's 10.1 million jobs that are available in America right now. I think this is BlackRock's new office. And the lobby of this looks amazing. I think I told you guys, on one night on the live stream, we actually ran into the developer that designed all of the lobbies of Hudson Yards. He was a nice guy. His wife was really nice too. And I'll show you. He did a great job. Look at the lobbies inside the Hudson Yards. You guys they're like art museums, not even like lobbies. Look at that. Look at how unique that is. And so non-farm payrolls added 339,000 people. But again, a lot of service jobs, a lot of government jobs being created, a lot of healthcare. So we'll see. We'll take a quick poll. Do we think we're going to get a pause? Do you think the Federal Reserve is going to pause interest rate hikes? Or do you think we're going to get another 25 basis point rate hike at the next FOMC meeting, which is next week? Because Australia is probably going to hike on Tuesday. Hey, Ren1018, what's up? This is Tom. I've been hearing from tech workers who were recently laid off. Oh, let me read that. Sorry about that. Ren10, that is true. I've heard that too, because I used to work in tech. That is correct. So Ren10 is saying that a lot of tech workers that unfortunately were laid off, they're able to find jobs, right? Which is good news, right? We're not sociopaths here. We want Americans to be employed. We want the economy to do good. Doesn't matter who's in the White House. But the jobs this year, especially in tech, are paying a little bit less, which kind of makes sense, right? Which really makes sense. And I think one of the main shifts that's happening, and we talked about this, and I think we even predicted this, in 2022, like the very beginning, I think I did an entire stream saying, if you're going to negotiate a salary increase, you better do it now, because this is your last shot. Because essentially what happened during COVID, and I'm going to show you guys the inside of this beautiful lobby. My God, look at that. Essentially what happened during COVID, everybody, is the labor force shifted in the favor of the employees, right? So you had more bargaining power on the employee side of the house, as opposed to, what's up? Huh? Oh, well, you can film, but it's all right. So you had more demand for workers, because demand exploded due to unprecedented amount of economic stimulus, right? You had the Federal Reserve flooding the market with money. You had the federal government giving people money to stay home and purchase goods and services that nobody was at work to make. So employees needed to hire people like crazy. So employers, were so desperate for employees that they started throwing ridiculous salary numbers at these employees to compete for workers. But what's happening now, and what was the fundamental shift that happened? Well, the fundamental shift that happened is interest rates are starting to go up, and we are going from a quantitative easing cycle to a quantitative tightening cycle. So as the cost of money goes up, that slows demand for new investment, right? So if I'm a business or I'm a company, I'm not gonna, take out a loan to go build a new warehouse. If before I was getting 3% rates, and now, let's just say for a construction loan, it could be double digits, right? So that automatically slows new investment into the business, which then in turn slows demand for hiring, and that puts pressure on corporate earnings, right? If nobody is sitting at home anymore just buying random stuff on Amazon, revenues are going to go down, profitability is going to go down, and your gross margins are going to get compressed. Because as revenue declines, you still have that same amount of cost from all of your overhead because you've hired so many employees, right? I mean, look at the employee count that Meta and Alphabet added during the pandemic. They almost doubled the size of their businesses in terms of the employees they had. So payrolls went through the roof, demand slowed, and now they have to lay people off to protect their gross margins and to protect their earnings. So naturally, the pendulum has now shifted into the favor of the employer. So instead of giving in and caving in and saying, oh, sure, you want to work from home, you want to work from the beach, 4 days a week, no problem, you could do that and we'll give you a raise. You're going to see the pendulum shift in a big way, and it's already shifting in a big way. Did anybody see the breaking news that came out on Friday right before the close? Well, if you didn't, you can just Google the CNBC article. Mark Zuckerberg came out and announced to all of his employees at Meta that it is mandatory, mandatory to come into the office at least 4 days a week now. Think about that. So before, you had all of these tech workers were able to work remotely 100%, and slowly but surely, as more of the power shifts to the employer, everybody's going back to work, right? If you talk about Wall Street, you had Goldman Sachs, JP Morgan, and Morgan Stanley announced that managing directors are to be in the office 5 days a week. So what does that mean? Sort of follow the money there. If your managing director, right, if your MD is commuting to the office 5 days a week, do you think that your managing director is going to tell the analyst on the team, oh, no worries, I've just been working at Goldman Sachs for over a century, or for over a decade, I'm going to take the 1 hour commute into the office, but don't worry, analysts that just got hired out of college, you can work remote from, Jones Beach. It's not happening. They're going back, or they're going to get fired. So I think that's going to be the shift, and we're starting to see that. At least that's what I'm seeing, but I'm more interested in what you guys are seeing. Is your boss, or maybe you own a small business or whatnot, generally speaking, do you guys see people going back to the office? Or do you still see 100% remote? I want to know your thoughts. Well, you're now at the Hudson Yards. And this is what the Hudson Yards used to look like, by the way. This is all of the Long Island Railroad train cars that come out of Penn Station. They're all right here. Hey, TK Porsche, what's up? Hey, hang with Mark. Says Tom, my son was remote. He just needed to stop and be with others again. Mine returned. That's another good point, right? Some people are just sick of working from home. I'm kind of sick from working from home too. Laura M says, Tom, I work in pharma and we're mostly work from home still. Sparks Carnival says, one big change I see in office culture is more workaholic relationship to a holistic relationships with employees. I think that's right. Brad's Brain says, Tom, there is a rude awakening happening. A rude awakening coming. Of course, I never left the office from day one of COVID. Wow. Wow. Username Schmoozername says, Misery loves company. For sure, if the manager has to be in the office, you have to be as well. Yeah, I mean, I think we're still going to see, don't get me wrong, we're still going to see hybrid work, but you're going to come in like 3 days a week as opposed to no days a week, right? Hey, Frankie Rivera says, Tom, I've been coming to the office since 2020. Michael says a lot of software engineers are working from home. Yeah, I mean, I think it's going to be really hard to pry that back, especially for smaller startups. But I mean, I think, again, this is the sort of the way I think about it, right? The bigger the brand, the more weight they have to throw around. There is a line out the door and around the block of college graduates who want to work for Facebook and make $250,000 a year the first year out of college. So Mark Zuckerberg has a vice grip on these people, and he's like, look, if you want to make $250,000 year one out of college, that's fine, but you need to have your ass in the office chair, right? Some startups may have a little bit more lackadaisical environment, but I think more so if you work at these big companies like Apple, Microsoft, Amazon, I think you're going to slowly but surely see people come back. This is the vessel, by the way, everybody. Yeah, Joe says, Tom, wasn't it just published that New York City office occupancy has leveled off at around 50%? I think it's less than that, or I should say vacancy is around that. But essentially what we're seeing in New York, you're 100% right, by the way. What we're seeing in New York, and we've explained this before, is, and this is probably a pretty good place to explain it. You see all these buildings here? This is the Hudson Yards. This is brand new development, and this is what you call Class A office property, right? So in Manhattan specifically, you're seeing a big shift from Class B office space, which is just, I mean, that's devastated, to companies choosing not to renew their leases in these old, dilapidated 1980s office buildings, and choosing to opt for smaller space in really, really, really nice properties like the Hudson Yards, like 425 Park Avenue, because it's going to be hard to get your employees back to the office if they have to sit in a cubicle from the 1980s. So I think this is actually going to create a very, very big opportunity in New York. I think you're going to have so much dislocation in pricing and so much mispricing in the office space, where many of these Class B office buildings in Manhattan will sell for land value. I know it sounds crazy, but I think that's what's going to happen. And I think a lot of investors are going to step in here, and people are going to make a fortune by buying a lot of these distressed properties, particularly Class B office space in Manhattan, and maybe doing a demolition and building multifamily apartments, perhaps. But it's always like that, right? In every cycle. In every cycle, when you have huge distressed assets, everybody is so petrified and so scared about buying that they don't. But the few who do, and the few who could see through the fog of war, I think will be rewarded, right? It's a business cycle, right? It's a business cycle. And I think the reason why commercial office particularly, is hurting so much, and I'll have you guys do a little bit of research for yourself, and it'll be a little bit of homework. A lot of these properties need to refinance their debt. So what did we just talk about probably 30 minutes ago on the live stream? Well, interest rates are not at 3% anymore. The Fed funds target rate right now is at 5% to 5.25%. That's where it is. It's going higher, okay? Yes, next week we could probably get a pause, but if you think about the billions and billions of dollars in debt that needs to be refinanced over the next 18 months. And there was a really good commenter in the chat that says, well, isn't vacancies for office space in Manhattan at all-time record highs? I mean, vacancies at all-time record highs, yeah. Vacancy is up. So if they can't make the payments, or they're struggling to make the payments on the debt now, what do you think they're going to do when the debt costs them 100% more? The keys are going to go back to the banks. That's what's going to happen. And I think there's going to be a lot of opportunity. And I think it's actually, in your long-term view, this is the high line, by the way. I wanted to take you guys here, but it closed down. Just to show you, this is where the high line ends. But in a long-term view, I think it's going to sound crazy, but this is going to be the best thing that ever happened in New York City, because you're going to see a lot of transformation. You think the Hudson Yards is transformative and beautiful? Just imagine what New York City is going to look like in 15 years. Now, I know a lot of people would disagree. I get it, but you got to see through the madness when things are bad, okay? This is going to create so much amazing opportunity. I think the housing environment in New York is going to improve in a big way. I think you're going to see a lot more supply on the market. I think you're going to see some of these properties that are vacant sell for land value and potentially redeveloped into, affordable, normal housing inventory, apartments, condos. And I think that's going to improve the overall feel and vibe of the city. I don't know, maybe I'm too optimistic. I tend to be an eternal optimist, but what do you guys think? You think I'm off base there? You think I'm a little bit off base, too optimistic about it? Who knows? Who knows? Maybe I am wrong. That's just my opinion. Just because I say something doesn't mean I'm right. All right, I'll give you one more shot of the vessel and then let's head back to Penn Station. Wow, wait, so NBA Elias's Tom, Hudson Yards developer reveals revised $10 billion bid for a casino? So what do you mean? There's a casino that wants to pitch the Hudson Yards? I really hope that doesn't materialize. I don't think they would ever let that happen. Now, weren't they trying to do that in Times Square? Does anybody remember that story? They were trying to build a casino in Times Square. I don't know. In my opinion, guys, I think that's a very bad idea. I think that would be really, really bad for New York. Any thoughts there? Who thinks a casino would be good for the Hudson Yards or Times Square, and who thinks it would be bad? Because I don't know. Maybe my opinion could be malleable on this. I don't know. Hey, DM is here. What's up? DM, hope you had a good weekend. Thanks for joining us tonight. Buy the book says the casino would be a disaster. Hey, Who Dat Dave says, Tom, good jobs report on Friday caused the market to increase. I thought good jobs reports were inflationary and that would be bad for the market. Well, I think we're in this sort of mini teeny like AI miniature bubble, perhaps. But again, you got to look at it. Well, the way I look at it is the data in relation to what the Federal Reserve may do, right? And you're 100% right. We got a smoking hot non-farm payroll report. The U.S. economy added 339,000 jobs, which I'm happy about, right? I'm happy that people are finding work. We're not sociopaths. But what else happened in that report? The unemployment rate actually ticked up, right? Unemployment rate went from 3.4 to 3.7? And earlier in the week, we had a really, really disastrous manufacturing PMI. So the manufacturing sector contracted for, I think, the 7th month in a row now. And I think the next big thing on the chopping block is tomorrow when we get the services PMI. And I think the services PMI is going to come in smoking hot. Because look at, and we reviewed this on Friday, I want everybody to go to the Bureau of Labor Statistics website, right? Go to the BLS website and look at the jobs report, right? Look at the non-farm payrolls, and it'll tell you line item by line item which sector of the economy added, however many jobs. And notice every single month, the service sector continues to add a lot of jobs, right? A ton of jobs. And not only that, here's something crazier. Not only does the service sector continue to add jobs month over month over month, they continue to get revised higher every single month. So I think the service sector is what's keeping the U.S. economy going. But manufacturing is definitely in a recession. I mean, that's no debate. NBA Elias's $10 billion development plan for the Yards' entire western half will be kickstarted by the 3 million square foot resort tower. Interesting. Well, yeah, I mean, that's my take. Hopefully there's no casino. I don't know. That's just my view. This is BlackRock, by the way. This is the new BlackRock office space. Now, this is another example of big companies opting for Class A office property, right? Now, BlackRock's, their main office was right on Park Avenue. But now, they are here. I think it's a good choice, right? This is a beautiful building. 50 Hudson Yards. I think they did a good job with it, guys. Joel PM wins the comment of the night. Joel says New York already has a casino and it's called Wall Street. I'm going to give you the comment of the night. That may be the comment of the week, and we've only just started. Now, guys, I remember when I was a kid, not a kid, I was in college. College, you're not a kid. Anyway, do you know what this place used to look like in 2014? It didn't used to look like this at all. This was a McDonald's drive-thru, okay? I would walk from Penn Station, which is right here, which we're actually going to take a walking tour through Penn Station, assuming the internet holds up. Anyway, so you would walk all the way down here, right? This was all auto body shops, mechanic shops, really like dilapidated buildings. And there was a McDonald's drive-thru. I think it was the only McDonald's drive-thru on the island of Manhattan. Who remembers that, by the way? It's crazy to see how, I mean, this place just boomed in 10 years, totally different. B Cruz says, how would you hack office space like you would a bedroom rental hack? I don't know. I mean, maybe more co-working spaces, like WeWork style, I guess, and sell subscription services. I don't know. It's going to be tough. But look, you've had, and with this whole remote work thing, guys, with this whole hybrid work thing, it's actually, I think, shown resiliency in residential real estate. Because if people aren't coming to the office, where are they spending more time? They're spending more time at home, right? And when you spend more time at home, guess what? You find more things to do at home. I've noticed that too ever since I've got my place. You know, if you're hanging around the house, you're like, you know what? I'm going to go to Home Depot and I'm going to buy a lemon tree. You plant the lemon tree and you're like, you know what? I'm kind of bored. I'm going to go back to Home Depot and I'm going to get a mango tree. You plant the mango tree. You know what? I'm kind of bored. I'm going to go back to Home Depot and I'm going to get a kumquat tree. You know, just all stupid things like that you do. But some people take it to another level. They're like, you know what? I'm kind of bored. Let's go shopping for a new kitchen and do a whole demolition. Right? You'd be surprised. People do that. So, and you've seen that in Home Depot's earnings report, by the way. It's slowed a little bit. A lot of that stuff is slowed, but the pandemic sparked a massive boom in home remodeling. You know, people bought houses, you spend more time there, let's redo the kitchen. So, all right, check this out. This is a gorgeous shot of the Empire State Building. And look at the lobby of this building. Floor to ceiling windows. Hey, Breeskill. You know, Breeskill, I planted a kumquat tree, and I'm actually really excited about it. No, it's just a baby. In 2 years, I think it'll bear a lot of fruit, and those are extremely healthy. Extremely healthy. I think they have more vitamin C than an orange. So this is 1 Manhattan West, everybody. I'll quickly show it to you. And then right in front of us is the Moynihan Train Hall. Huge ceilings. Main Street Moments, is that true? The mango trees will get rid of the iguanas? If anything, I thought it would attract them, right? I don't know, we'll see. Everybody, so the last thing I got for you, it's going to be a slow week on Wall Street, which I think we deserve. We've been working hard. Now, I think most interestingly, if you fast forward to Thursday, we're going to hear from the Federal Reserve as it releases the financial accounts of the United States for the first quarter. The report will detail the net worth of U.S. households, Now, at the end of 2022, the net worth of households and nonprofits stood at $147.7 trillion. That's about $4 trillion less than the peak in the first quarter of 2022, right? So with the S&P 500 now up 7% in Q1, we could potentially have a new all-time record high in terms of household net worth in America. We'll see. I mean, the markets have rallied, right? S&P 500 is on a tear. Triple Q's NASDAQ 100 is doing rather well, right? Helped by the likes of NVIDIA, which is now, well, for a brief point in time, right before it had a correction, for a brief point in time, NVIDIA joined the $1 trillion club, joined Tim Cook's Apple, joined Andy Jassy's Amazon, joined Microsoft as $1 trillion companies. You know, if you guys are not following me on Twitter, this is B&H Photo, by the way. Love this place. This is a New York icon, B&H Photo. Amazing, amazing place. Now, I would go to Twitter and type in Walks Wall Street. You can connect with me there. And I did a little bit of a mini write-up on the co-founder of NVIDIA. And I want you guys to read it, because in the Wall Street Journal this weekend was probably one of the most humbling and inspiring articles I've read in a while. And it's all about how NVIDIA came to be. Now, I won't give it away, because I want you guys to, number one, read that article in the Wall Street Journal. Very informative, very educational, very inspiring. But check it out. I wrote a little bit of a synopsis there on my Twitter page. You could follow @WalksWallStreet. And in this country, as of late, there's been a lot of talk about, you know, the American dream is dead. You know, it's the American nightmare. You can't make it in the US anymore. Everybody's oppressed, this and that, all this nonsense. It couldn't be further from the truth. It's total fake news, okay? And I really, really do mean that when I say that. It has never been easier to become a success in the United States, okay? And I think people really need to realize that, because I believe whatever you believe is your truth. If you believe that you're oppressed and you can't do anything in the United States and life is against you, well, then you're right. But if you don't believe that, and you say, you know what, I have the golden ticket already. I was born in the United States of America. I have free will to do whatever I want, to pursue whatever career I want, with no limitations. It doesn't matter who's in the White House. It doesn't matter if Joe Biden's in the White House. He's not controlling your life. It doesn't matter if Trump is in the White House. He's not controlling your life. You got to have perspective. And this is the greatest country on earth, and you can make whatever you want to happen, happen. And it's very, very real. So I want you to read that article, okay? The co-founder of NVIDIA immigrated to the United States from Taiwan when he was just 9 years old. And yeah, read the article. I think it'll give you a nice boost going into the work week on Monday. But for now, here we are at 34th Street, Penn Station. We are now right outside of Madison Square Garden, which I think is all lit up for Pride Month. It is June. So you have MSG lit up for June, Pride Month. NBA Elias says Apple's Worldwide Developer Conference starts tomorrow. We'll see how the stock performs with its new product debut. Yeah, NBA Elias, we talked about that at the very beginning of the stream. Now, pretty much half the viewers are split on this. You know, I think they're going to unveil that new VR device, the virtual reality device, at a $3,000 price point, which is crazy. But again, like what we explained at the beginning of the stream, this is actually not a hardware play for Apple, in my opinion. It's a big software play. And what Apple's trying to do is create a developer ecosystem around this new product, right? Just like the App Store is a raging success, you know, makes billions of dollars a year for Apple. I think their play over the next 10 years is to create a developer ecosystem to build applications for this headset and then potentially just sell apps and make a bunch of money through software, because we all know there's no margins really in hardware. Hardware margins are very, very slim. Margins, in a big way, are in software, right? You could have 90% plus gross margins in software and make a fortune, right? You know, I think we have Mark Benioff to thank for that, CEO of Salesforce. SaaS, software as a service. This is the Moynihan Train Hall. Beautiful architecture here. And now it's actually still a functional post office, by the way. Out and about, says, how does it look from this top of the stairs? Well, let's find out. Now, unfortunately, I think they closed off the upper portion of the stairs for whatever reason, but I'll go as far as I can. Out and about, it's good to see you. Our good pal from Toronto, Canada. Looks pretty good. Hold on, let's try to go. Maybe if we go up the stairs, you'll have a better view. What do you guys think? I think it looks pretty good. I always like looking at all the yellow taxi cabs that line up right outside of MSG, because right around the corner, this is where the Amtrak is. So people get off the Amtrak from all over the country. They come out to 8th Avenue, and then they get a taxi and go wherever they need to go. Yeah, that's true. Somebody says the post office is still there. The Moynihan Train Hall is below. Yeah, I mean, I've given many walking tours of inside the post office. It's absolutely gorgeous in there. Maybe I'll give you guys another one right now since we're right here. It's unbelievable walking the original post office. It is so gorgeous. Now, when we go in, I got to use my inside voice, but I want you guys to pay close attention to the ceiling. The ceiling is unbelievable in here. Check it out. All right, let's go in. Very quiet. Isn't that amazing? Just amazing detail on the ceiling. I gotta be quiet because it's very echoey in here. Now guys, check this out. These are individual, sort of like tellers, right? Now obviously back in the day, every single one would be in use. There's only 2 of them in use now, right? Because nobody really mails anything. But these are all the original, excuse me, all the original teller windows. Isn't that cool? I could only imagine what it looked like here back in the day when there was lines almost out the door of everybody waiting for a teller. Now that it's not really that busy. This is where I came to get my passport. Well, I should say apply to get my passport, but what do you guys think? Pretty cool, right? Hey, Vincent is here, Techno Pink. Good to see you. But if you guys are enjoying the live stream so far tonight, feel free to leave a like on the video and click the subscribe button if you're new. This is my favorite part of the post office right here. And then maybe if the internet holds up, I'll try to show you guys the brand new Moynihan Train Hall. But this is the World War II memorial right here. Very echoey. All right, we're gonna go for it. You guys wanna see what the brand new Moynihan Train Hall looks like? We'll see. We'll see if the internet holds up. So as you could tell, we're transitioning from the post office into the brand new Moynihan Train Hall, where you can get the Long Island Railroad and Amtrak. This was all brand new. This is actually where I take the train to head to Long Island, New York. Look at this. Isn't it cool? Super modern, super nice, really clean. I know, Brie Grams, isn't it really empty? I thought I'd show you guys. We haven't been here in a long time. But let's head to the Empire State Building now. Hey, Rich Port says, I'm from Babylon, New York. Awesome. I'm from Massapequa. So I took the Babylon line almost every single day of my life, especially commuting into the city to go to college. No, we'll go out this way. This has a better view. Yeah, you get on the LIRR. Stop at Woodside, Jamaica, Rockville Center, Baldwin, Freeport, Belmore, Wantagh, Seaford, Massapequa, Massapequa Park, Amityville, Copeg, Lindenhurst, and then Babylon. That is the Babylon line on the LIRR. As you can tell, I've memorized all the stops from taking it so much. You know what? I don't know. I noticed that too. I'm seeing in the comments everybody's like RF. I've noticed that on the ceiling in the Moynihan Train Hall. I'm gonna have to look that up. I really don't know why. It's actually a pretty good question. Hey, Christian says Massapequa Park. You know what's funny? I live closer to Massapequa Park. So what I used to do is I used to ride my bike to the Massapequa Park train station every morning. I would get a cup of coffee at Massapequa Park coffee shop, which is the greatest coffee shop on the face of the planet. And yeah, that would be my morning routine. But you know, the way it's located, technically live in Massapequa, but the train station closest to me is Massapequa Park. All right, I think we'll call it a night here, guys, because tomorrow is Monday. I got to get up early to start the week of work ahead. But I think we covered a lot. We covered the Apple Developer Conference. Again, tomorrow, Monday, June 6th, the Institute for Supply Management. PMI numbers come out on the services side. Again, last week we got the PMI numbers out on the manufacturing side, which was a disaster. Tuesday, we're going to hear from our pals over in Australia. as the Reserve Bank of Australia announces their monetary policy decision. Futures traders are pricing in about a 33% probability that the central bank will raise interest rates by about 25 basis points. That'll take the baseline rate there in Australia to 4.1%. Then on Wednesday, we have Campbell Soup reporting earnings. The Federal Reserve is going to report consumer credit data for April, as well as consumer credit card data. And then we'll end the week with the Federal Reserve releasing all of the federal accounts for the United States for the first quarter. So I think now that the market has been rallying, we may have a new all-time record high in American household net worth. Until then, if you enjoyed the live stream so far tonight, and if you want to join us tomorrow right here live from New York, come back at 8:30. We'd love to have you here. Click the subscribe button if you're new, click the like button. If you want to connect with us off the stream, feel free to go into the link in the description, sign up for our free financial newsletter, follow us on Twitter, and we will be back here tomorrow. So wishing you all a wonderful week ahead, prosperous week ahead. Stay optimistic. There's always opportunity everywhere you look, and the best is yet to come for the United States of America. Take care, everybody. So Rock, appreciate it, out and about. Richard Vogel, Marcelo Gill, Deep Value Alex, NBA Elias. Photos from around New York, our good moderator from Canada, out and about. DM Hawaii, appreciate you as always. Oops, let's get away from that. And I'll see you guys later. Take care. There's always a bull market somewhere. You just need to know where to look. Appreciate it. Ken Brockton, always good to see you.